So, you want to learn how to save and maximize your HSA and how your health saving account actually loses money? Well, I really don't have time to teach a mailbox right now because I got a date, but why don't we take a walk and talk about it? Give me 1 second. So several months back, my friend broke up with his girlfriend and he came over to my place and we're walking the same road that I walked with him, and I was trying to console him on his breakup because it was fresh and he was hurting. And we were walking to the bar because this is the road that we take to the bar that's right next to my house. And I was trying to console him, but you know, he's the type of guy that has terribly low EQ and he didn't know how to convey his feelings. So what he did is he started talking about his HSA because he has a bad back, right? So he had to go see a PT for that bad back. And what I learned from him was something that I didn't know about. It's that you can actually invest your HSA, right? I did not know about that. So this video is gonna be talking about how to maximize and optimize your HSA, because if you have an HSA and you're not doing anything with it, if money just going into that account every single week, bi-weekly, monthly, well, whatever you want it, that means that you're in fact losing money. And that pissed me off. And that should piss you off too. So in this whole entire video, we're gonna take a look about how you can actually maximize and optimize your HSA. So I think I want to start off talking about high deductible health plans, or HDHP. Simply put, if you happen to get into an accident or an illness of any sort, then you have to pay a higher deductible out of pocket before the insurance kicks in. But in exchange, what you're going to have is you're going to have lower premiums. So back in 2018, I had a very serious case of pink eye. I didn't know what was happening. It was so bad that in fact that the ophthalmologist that ended up saving my eyesight told me that I fit in his top 3 worst cases of pink eye that he's ever seen. And he's been in the business for 20 plus years. That's how bad it was. So in the first week, I really didn't know what was happening. And I actually ended up in the ER and they ran a bunch of tests. And since I live in America, boy, it really cost a pretty penny. My bill coming out of the ER, which I stayed for like 3 to 4 hours, came out to $15,000. Isn't that incredible? I literally do not know what they did in there because all they did was like swab my nose, swab my mouth, and ran some tests, and that came out to 15 grand. Luckily, I had HDHP and I had an HDHP limit of like 2K. So what that basically means that instead of paying the 15K that they billed me for, I pay up to 2K, and the rest of that, 13K, is paid by the plan. Still though, 2K in 3 to 5 hours is a punch in the gut. Let me know in the comments if you guys have any similar stories, because you know, healthcare in the US, it's crazy. So the HDHP is often used in conjunction with the HSA, the health savings account, the MSA, which is the medical savings account, and the HRA, which is the health reimbursement account. All right guys, seriously, I feel like I'm taking you on a first date. Actually, I think I'm taking you to more places than my first date. But that aside, let's talk about the HSA because that is what this video is focused on. So the HSA is there to help you save for health expenses that you, your spouse, or your dependents might have. And to be eligible, you have to be covered with an HDHP and not be covered by some other health insurance. You cannot be eligible for Medicare, and you cannot be listed as a dependent on someone else's tax return. So with the HSA, the minimum deductibles for singles is $1,500, and for family it's $3,000. The max contribution limits in 2023 for singles is $3,850, and for families it's $7,750. Now if you're older than 55, then you can make additional contributions of up to $1,000. Now with all that said, if you're enjoying the content so far, then make sure you smash that like and subscribe button. But I also want you to stick around because at the end of this video, I'm going to show you how to hack your HSA and profit from it. Alright guys, so this next part is gonna be a class because I need to do it too. And remember in the start of this video, I say you are losing money when you are just putting money in your HSA. So this class is really just turned from saving to investing, which is in a sort of way kind of savings too, because if you just have money in your HSA, you're actually losing money. Why? Because we're experiencing crazy inflation right now, and the only way to counteract that inflation is with investing, which is what I'm trying to show you in this video. Now, with my company, we only have mutual funds, no ETFs. So I'm gonna go through this example with you with the idea of using mutual funds. If you have ETFs, we're also gonna go through that a little bit, but most of it is gonna be on mutual funds. Now, this is a disclaimer that I am not a financial advisor of any sort, so if you need someone to help you pick the right funds, best contact your company, get a financial advisor to have you walk through the things you need to do. But this whole tutorial will pretty much generally give you a good guide to how to get started and how to think about things. So let's get to it. Okay guys, so here's my health savings account, my HSA. You can see that in my deposit account balance, I have $1,520.04, and in my HSA investment account balance, I literally have nothing. So yours might look a little bit different. We are using PayFlex for my company. We have two options here that we're really gonna look at. You might have the same or something similar, but if you don't, then look for it, ask for your company for help. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna open up the investment dashboard and the investment options, which is already opened up here in my second tab. So my investment dashboard basically tells us that I have $520.04 available to invest. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to transfer my funds to send the money from my HSA account in order to buy mutual funds. So with my company, we're working with mutual funds only. I'm not sure if your HSA allows for something like ETFs, so we really have limited options here. So I'm gonna go ahead and transfer my funds, and I have two options: transfer funds to HSA deposit account. I have no money in here, so that's basically bank. So I'm gonna transfer funds to my HSA investment account. So it gives me a max I can transfer. I'm gonna transfer the max, so I'm gonna click continue here. And in step 2, we're gonna choose how to invest your funds. So it gives us a litany of funds that we can invest in and the amounts to invest in, right? So here is where we can go and look at our investment options, which was our second tab. So basically we have several categories here, like large growth, which is basically offered by JP Morgan. We're gonna take a look at that in a bit. Large value, which have Davis New York, Schwab, and Vanguard. We're gonna take a look at Vanguard Dividend Appreciation Fund in a little bit, and the Schwab Fundamental. There's also things like large cap international. So for me, this is where it differs. You have to really know what you want to invest in. So for me, as a 31-year-old, I'm pretty conservative, but at the same time, I'm aggressive. So I would be looking at large value. I'm not looking at international right now, just because of the macroeconomic environment that we're in. Investing internationally right now, I feel is risky, so I'm keeping to the US. So I'm looking for large in the US. Maybe even small to mid cap, but anything that has international or world allocation, I'm not really interested in right now. Bond fund, I'm not interested in either because I'm 31. I have some time to make mistakes. But if you are like age, let's say 55 or older, and you are conservative, you want to save your money, the bond fund is probably a way to go because that's a more conservative and more guaranteed investment than anything else here. Like with stocks are risky, so you probably won't want to get into that. Diversified emerging markets is something that I'm not interested in either because that's investing in emerging markets. Somewhere like third world countries, you know, like Africa and things like that. I am not interested in that. There's also large blend, which we will also take a look at the VFIAX. Note that I'm not looking at really other funds. I'm gonna go through Charles Schwab and JP Morgan with you to show you guys that most of the time you're gonna end up with a Vanguard fund because Vanguard is a brand name and they have really good funds. So without further ado, I'm just gonna show you two sites. One is etfdb.com if you have access to invest in ETFs. If you don't, then we're just looking up things through mutualfunds.com. So on ETFDB, I just put in a random ticker VOO, which tracks the S&P 500 ETF. Now, the first thing that I usually look at is expense ratio. So it's 0.03%. That means that for every $1,000 you put in, each year you're basically paying 30 cents to manage that $1,000. Another thing that I take a look at is dividend. So that's a whole nother story. I used to not like dividends because I was aggressive on growth and stuff, but now being more conservative, I am looking for a dividend, and they're paying a dividend yield, annual dividend yield of 1.24%. Pretty good. Their PE ratio is a little bit high. If you read anything like Ben Graham's Intelligent Investor, they usually say that a PE ratio of less than 15 is the best, but I don't think you're going to find anything better. So this one, I don't put a lot of weight in, but I do put a lot of weight in the dividend yield and basically the expense ratio that we saw earlier. Another thing that you also want to take a look at is performance. How well did this ETF perform during its run? The 5-year return for this is 56.02%. That is really, really good. 3-year as well, 38%. Now the 1 year, it's been a really rocky year for 2022 and 2022. So this is understandable. Year to date, 2.42. 1 month return, 4.64. So basically the year is what I don't really look at, put much weight in. I put more weight in the 3-year and 5-year because I am investing for the long term. And if you compare them against the category average, they're beating them. So, you know, that is a happy thing. Another thing is on the front page, if you take a look down here on the stock profile and price, you can see that they're mainly in North America and the US. One last thing I want you to take a look at when visiting charts is take a look at the price. So what I want to see is I want to see the price keep on going higher, because that means that there is going to be demand for this ETF, which there was, right? From 2020, it just gained in price, which is understandable. But even from 2018, you know, at 2018, it was $234 and it reached an all-time high of 446 in the beginning of 2022. So this is what I want to see. I'll show you some mutual funds later that has price just completely stagnant. That is what you don't want. So this is another kind of advice for you to write down in your notes. So we're going to take a look at JP Morgan Large Cap Growth. The ticker is SEEGX, and we're going to compare it against the Vanguard Dividend Appreciation, VDADX. So we have this pulled up already in mutualfunds.com. The first one is JP Morgan. The second one is Vanguard Dividend. Notice what you should notice first is the expense ratios. This is 0.08. So that basically means that for every $10,000, you're basically paying $8 per year. 10,000 times 0.08%. For JP Morgan, it is 0.69%. So for every $10,000 each year, you're paying them $69 for managing your fund. And let's take a look at the return here. The 3-year average return is 3.2%. And for the Vanguard, it is 11.1% over here. So that is a very, very big difference. The 5-year here is 7.2. For JP Morgan, it is 3.2. So that obviously right away, this is a worse performing fund than the Vanguard Dividend. So easily right away, we could just take this and exit out. Now in this large value, we also see another option, Schwab Fundamental US Large, which is this SFLNX. Have this pulled up as well. The expense ratio is less than what we first saw with JP Morgan at 0.25%. For every 10,000 you invest, it's $25 per year. We also compared the 3-year average. So I believe this is higher than what we have with Vanguard, right? That's 11.1. And then for SFLNX, it's 13.9. The 5-year is 3.7. This is 7.2. That stupid little thing that keeps coming down. It's something that mutualfunds.com will really have to fix. Another thing that we should look at is the dividend yield. So for Vanguard, it's 2.3. And for Schwab, it is 2.1. So not much of a difference, except for this one is being paid annually and this dividend distribution is quarterly. It's always better to get it more often because, you know, that is called dollar cost averaging. So both are all right, but you know, I would really like something in the middle. So let's go back to our investment options here and take a look at this large BIM, VFIAX. We also have this pulled up. So this one, the expense ratio is basically nothing, 0.04. That's a really good expense ratio. The 3-year and the 5-year is basically neck and neck with the VDADX, right? It beats them on the 3-year, and on the 5-year it's basically the same. The turnover fees is really low, and that's something that you should also take a look at because this is basically how much they're trading. You can see that on VDADX, they're trading a lot. The turnover fees is 26%, which eats into your profit. And the same can be said for Schwab. They trade over 16%. Their turnover fees are 16%. So that's a little bit lower. I could stand up with that. They also have a yield here. Their dividend yield is 1.8%, and they pay that quarterly. So this is a pretty good fund. So
at that point, we could basically choose between this 500 index Admiral. We're not going to choose this because they have a turnover of 26%. That is just way too high. So let's see if we have anything different. So let's take a look at small to mid cap. Small and mid cap in the US is really okay. Let's take a look at this Vanguard Small Cap Index Fund VS Max, which I have opened up here. So let's go up to the top, take a look at the things that we should look at, which is the expense ratio. Very good, it's 0.05%. The turnover fees is 17%, which is 1% more than the Schwab. I'm okay with that. The 3-year return is phenomenal. 5 years also phenomenal. So actually, they beat the 3-year for the Index Admiral, and the 5-year, they didn't beat it yet, but they did beat Schwab. So this is the somewhere in the middle between the Vanguard dividend and the Schwab Fundamental US Large. And these guys pay a dividend yield of 2.1%, and they pay that quarterly. So what did we do? We took a look at the expense ratios. We took a look at the turnover. We took a look at the dividend yield. Another thing we should take a look at is their net asset value and total return history. You can see that they have basically been going up in the last 5 years, right? So that looks good. The sector breakdown is good. If you take a look at all of their weighting, they're basically equal, so that looks good. I want most of this in US, and that is exactly what it shows here. Taking a look at the return, they do well. 10 years, 5 years, 3 years. So this is basically the same as what is performing in the S&P 500. S&P 500 usually returns around 7 to 10%. So I'm fine with that. If we look at the total history of their net asset value, you can see that in the beginning they were just 1954. So they have come a long way. And I feel like their all-time high in around 2021 was $113.86. So from the ends of it, it looks like this is what I'm gonna go with. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna choose how to invest our funds. I have 520.04 cents to invest. I'm gonna choose VS Max like we talked about and enter the amount. And then we're gonna go and basically submit this. And boom, we're done.
But we do have one more thing.
And that one more thing is I want you to set up DCAing, recurring buys. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna set up your account such that at every interval, like whenever you have money in your HSA, you're gonna go ahead and buy that fund, that mutual fund or the ETF that you picked. So that let's say that every single 2 weeks, you get $100 in your HSA. You're gonna automatically set things up so that it goes in your account and buys more of that ETF or that mutual fund. And this is called dollar cost averaging, and this is what is recommended by most people in order to set yourself up for the future.
Now there's one thing we have to do left, and that is to set up recurring investments. This is the dollar cost averaging part. Basically, you want to buy whenever you have money in your HSA. So that's dollar cost averaging. So we're going to invest a percentage. I'm going to invest everything, so 100% is going to go in there. Now, one thing I didn't talk about while we were doing this the last time is if you want to buy 2 funds at the same time, you can do that, right? If you want to buy VDADX and VS Max, you can do that, right? Just find them and put 50% on each. So let's say if I wanted to do, 50% on APHSX, and I'll just put 50 and I'll put 50 on VS Max. So that's what you do. But I don't want to do that, so what I'll do is just change that to 100. And then I'll just go and click continue and check the box and hit submit, and boom, you're done. So if you just skip through the whole entire last part and you want a summary, here it is. Basically what you want is with the expense ratio, you want something under 0.1%. For me personally, I look for under or equal to 0.08%. Also look for a PE ratio of under or equal to 15 as per the teachings from the Intelligent Investor, though those are pretty hard to find nowadays. We're also looking for a very low turnover. 17% with respect to the returns that I was seeing for VS Max was something that was acceptable to me, so that was okay. You also have to think about geographical exposure. I am not wanting anything outside of the United States, so the funds that I focus on have to be in the US. And when you take a look at the charts, it's really easy to take a look at it. Basically, you're just taking a look at whether it's going up. There are charts where it just flatlines throughout like 5 years, and there are charts where it just goes up, right? You want the one that just goes up. And lastly, performance. We talked about this a lot in the tutorial. You want to see something that actually gives you some good returns. So a 50% return over 5 years, to me, that's already pretty good. And when I was writing the script for this video, I really thought that I was gonna end up with VDADX, but after doing the research, after comparing the numbers, it really looked like VS Max was the best fit for me, And that's what I went with. This happens when you do research. You might find something that might be a better fit for you than what you originally planned for. So it's kind of like a Goldilocks moment where, the soup is too hot, the soup is too cold, and the middle soup is just right. Now, before we get onto the part on how to hack your HSA in order to profit, I just want to mention that your HSA follows you. What that means is if you decide that you're fed up with your current job and you want to move to another job and you're afraid that you might lose your HSA, that's not going to happen because that HSA and everything in there is going to follow you. Aside from that, no matter what, don't spend your HSA on non-health expenditures, because if you do that, you're going to have to pay tax and you're also going to have to pay a 20% penalty for doing that. So please do not do that. So now let's get into the good part. How do you hack your HSA? So here's the story. When I turned 30, now I was born in December 12, 1991. So when I turned 30, the day after, like December 13th, my back started hurting. And I think it's just the old man thing that I'm getting on in the years. And immediately what I did is I looked for a TENS unit. And what do you know? Amazon actually has a category for FSA and HSA eligible items. So if you want to hack your FSA or HSA, you can just go to Amazon.com FSA eligible items and go look for things that you think people might need, like vitamins. And then you buy them and then you go on eBay and sell them at a higher price. So that's where your arbitrage play comes in. And that's a pretty cool way of actually going and spending your HSA and making a profit from it. Alright guys, if you've enjoyed this video, make sure to smash that like and subscribe button and maybe save this video for a later reference. But now you know how to maximize and optimize your HSA. Now, this is just a beginner video. There's gonna be more advanced videos, and this next one is highly related to the video that you're watching now. And you might want to watch this one because now you know how to maximize and optimize your HSA, but do you know how to put it on steroids? That is what the next video is going to be all about, so make sure to check that one out. Other than that, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please be sure to keep building, keep working, and keep inspiring. I'll see you next time.
Yeah, my mailbox wants to learn more about the HSA, so I'm going through this little tutorial with them. Yeah, people are freaking weird around here.